Yeah, Trish, that question.
No.
Oh, great. Like dinner.
Oh, come on. I think it's because my part of this, I'm on a different network. I think you should probably just try and go without. This is just not
We're good?
logging in. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
About that.
Don't worry.
That's all right.
So I'm gonna go, if it's okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start. We'll put out. I'm gonna have you, go ahead and introduce you and your staff. Or else a little bit about what you all do, and I know where you're getting from.
Yes, sure. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. I am Mark Zambito, Fire Chief for the City of Williamston in Perry Township. We also cover Sharon Township, the Village of Beverly. I wanted to give you guys a few updates on what we've been doing since we last had a chance to talk. And it's a great honor to have you guys here in our firehouse. I'd like to make this maybe an annual thing where you guys come over here and see what we're up to. But like I said before, to the trustees and also Ms. Beatty, that we don't feel like visitors when we come over to visit you guys. We feel like we're part of your team. Really appreciate that. 2020 has been an extremely busy year for us. We've had dozens and dozens and dozens of projects that we've accomplished and been a part of. But I just want to highlight a couple of them that are quite exciting. And quite frankly, the number one project, it's not a project. Number one accomplishment that we did in 2022 was hire Assistant Chief Jennifer Cochran to help us out with our EMS community risk reduction efforts. We're super excited and very pleased to have you here. And we're looking forward to what 2023 brings us in her role. We successfully designed a new medic unit that we had delivered this last month, but in 2022, we got to build that truck. We had a team of firefighters that put in quite a bit of work into speccing that truck, getting it just to the needs for our community. We also last February applied for what's called a SAFER grant. Don't ask me right now what SAFER stands for, because I forget, but it's a grant to help us fund some additional firefighters to assist with overtime. I'll get back to that here in a second. We're also awarded a grant for a new bay ventilation system that's going to actually be hosed attached to our trucks to take out the diesel particulates, so that as we live here, we don't want to be breathing in those fumes from those trucks that fire them up many times a day. So that's actually in the process of being spec'd out right now. We also received a grant for new cardiac monitors. Our current monitors are well over their life expectancy, so this federal grant is going to give us 2 additional cardiac monitors that we will be trading in the old ones on those new ones, which is a great addition to our organization. 2 more things that we've accomplished, 2 big things we accomplished in 2022. We renewed our medical direction contract with OSU, which Dr. Douglas Rund, who's been our medical director for over 15 years. He is on for 2 more years. He's also brought an understudy with him, Dr. Travis Sharkey, who's also an OSU physician. And finally, one of our big accomplishments, like I said, this is just a quick snapshot, as we held a training fire at the Ohio Fire Academy, in which everybody in the organization had a chance to go out there and go through some live evolution, which is always very beneficial. Because so much of what we do is EMS. So when we get a chance to go out there and do some firefighting on a practice level, it's quite beneficial. Some numbers for 2022. Our total for 2022 was 4,397 total runs. Perry Township was, I think it was 227. That's how many we had in their township in that time period. We actually saw a dip in from 2021 of about 300 runs, and there's different theories why. We're way busier in our own jurisdiction, so I think some of our automatic aid runs we were tied up for, so we didn't have a chance to respond to those. So it's one of our theories. While speaking about automatic aid, the question always comes up of how often do we go out and help other agencies? One of the things that we learned, though, when digging deep into that question was that we actually send 1,600 pieces of equipment to our outside agencies that we help out with. So throughout the year, we don't send 1,600 individual pieces of equipment, but the runs, the amount of responses we have. So most of that's the City of Columbus, Westerville, Washington Township, Orange Township, Liberty Township, Upper Island. What we found out, though, is that 2,700 pieces of equipment have come into our areas to provide us aid in times of need. When our medics are out on medic runs, we are on a fire alarm, auto accident, whatever it may be, we always need to have the closest company come in and help our residents, including your residents, in a time of need. So we have a great partnership. We don't want, I guess, tell too many people, but the joke, because we do get more help when we actually are able to help with or hand out. So it's a big benefit that I want to point out. We just found out a method of actually tracking that number in the past year. Some of our upcoming projects, sorry to take too much time there.
Yeah.
Mr. Cheney. So this next half of the year, I'll call it the first half of the year, we're going to start a process to hire a service coordinator. And that position is going to be a 24-hour-a-week position where he or she will be the conduit between the paramedics, our police officers, your police officers, and then services that would make their life in their home, quality of life better. We're hoping to have that person here sometime midsummer. It's a program that other cities around us have started similar programs, but we're wanting to improve the quality of lives of our residents that we respond to take care of. So I'm looking forward to having more information for you all here soon on that position. We just hired 3 new replacing some vacancies, 3 new full-time firefighter paramedics. We have 2 more spots that we're working on filling. We have some folks in that process. We hopefully have them on board by the end of March. But we're awarded that SAFER grant that I told you about. It took a year for us to finally get the notification that we were awarded that grant. And what it will do is it will actually cover the cost of 3 of our firefighters' salaries and benefits for 3 years. And we're expecting that those 3 people to help us out greatly with our overtime costs. So at the end of those 3 years, we'll see basically a cost neutral benefit that will improve the quality of lives of our firefighters, because we're working a lot of overtime right now. Our guys are frankly burnt out, and we need to give them some relief. But it'll also added more people to our roster for an event of a large emergency. In addition to that, we're also hiring part-time staff. We're getting it back up where it needs to be. And then a lot of our time right now is onboarding and training these new firefighters. We're actually seeing a gigantic shift in our roster from where I went recently, being a middle of the road guy to being a senior guy within the organization in the past 5 years. And it has just completely did I'll say 180, where we have a lot of folks that are getting on board. And it's not just us, it's the industry across the board, where we're just seeing a large amount of retirements happening at the same time. And I think it's because of all the growth that our region, but it's not just our regions across the country, but our growth our region saw in the early 90s. Those folks are now hitting retirement age and they're all leaving. So we're having to fill those spots. It's not always you don't want to see those people leave because they are part of your family. You're a family. But it's a good thing to get some fresh people here with some fresh views on just the way the world works. I am getting older, so I'm actually kind of scratching my head sometimes when some of these kids come in here. I call them kids. I'll take we'll take that thing behind you, put all these cameras and turn it on in seconds, where it'll take me an instruction sheet and 15 times of messing it up before I finally get it right. But
That's okay. We have our 12-year-old.
yeah.
Okay.
We're also working on our administrative assistant retired after 25 years. So we're working on replacing her. We're very busy in the hiring side of things. On the equipment side of things, you guys are going to see our current ladder truck. We're in the process of replacing that truck right now. We have not ordered a new one yet, but we're going to be taking it to city council here soon. You might go out there and say this truck is perfect. It is a nice truck. The problem is it takes 3 years to get these trucks built right now. So we're looking forward, recognizing the need that we're going to need to be addressing here in 3 years. On that same topic, our engine rescue, which is engine 101, we have it scheduled to be a new one ordered the same time, hopefully in the next month or two. That truck will take 4 years to get delivered. So if you're, I don't want anybody to think that we're jumping the gun, because it is a fairly new truck. The reality is, in this current climate, it's taking years. We used to take 8 or 9 months to get a truck built. Yeah.
Chief, what is the cost? We kind of joke because obviously.
Yeah, the ladder,
Yeah,
placing the ladder right now, these costs are going up very quickly, so we're trying to get aggressive and get it locked down right now.
and I know your city manager was devoting the cost of that.
Yeah, these
Significant increase.
1.65 for the ladder truck, and then an engine with 850 for an engine. And the thing is, though, we really scaled that truck down to really analyze what our main volume of runs are, and only purchase what we need. It's just a different world that we're in. It's not just, if you go build a house or you go remodel a house, it's the same thing as if you go build a fire engine. The thing is we need a fire engine to do our job. So we're trying to get ahead of it. We're trying to be aggressive, so we're not dumping more money into these vehicles because of repairs and whatnot. So it's going to be a few years till we see them, but we need to be thinking about it now, because we can't wait until then. Because if we wait until then, it's going to be longer. We're working on enhancing some of our EMS training. We're planning to do a medic refresher here in the fall. We're going to do our annual live fire again at the Fire Academy. And then one thing I want to mention is we're part of a regional hazmat team called NASTY. It's Northwest Area Strike Team. And it comprises of Westerville, Worthington, Liberty, Washington, Jerome, Marysville, Norwich, Upper Arlington, Grandview Heights, and Jackson Townships. And that team went from being a type 2 hazmat team, where it's reclassified to type 1. I'm telling you this because it actually opened up doors for the team to be able to apply for grants. And we talked about this, we talked about it a lot in the past couple of weeks, but we have lots of train tracks running through our area, and you guys have one running through the township, that we need to be ready to respond to any type of incident that happens on the CSX track. So it's going to allow us to apply for more grants, get more funding, to get more equipment for testing and response. So we're very excited about that. Our firefighters are going to be doing some more enhanced training on hazmat now that we're a type 1 team. We're quite excited about it. So that's all I have right now. Looking very forward to giving you guys a tour of the fire station. We're going to, it's not a carnival ride, but you guys can actually go up and ride up in the ladder truck to see what it's all about. To see what you guys drive.
Yeah.
We're going to do a tour of the medic and also engine rescue. I'm going to allow you guys, not allow you guys, I would like for you guys to try it on some of our fire trucks, see how heavy it is. And then we're going to do after all that, Chief Craig and Lieutenant Chief are going to do a demonstration to show you guys what we call flow paths. It's if you leave your bedroom door open and your windows cracked open in the middle of summertime, how rapidly fire will travel through the house. You'll get a chance to see that and learn some from that. So we're done with your business meeting. We'll take a 5-minute recess and we that's for it. So
A couple questions. I know there's more than
just,
that. One, I know we had talked previously about wanting a ride along with police. I mean, this is, to me, this makes a lot of common sense. That obviously you and our police department see each other. They're very stressful. And
lunches, that's right.
lunch is not.
Not by the
but those stressful times, I mean, having relationships in untrusted times, developing those relationships, I think is extremely important. Getting to understand what you all go through and what your needs are, you saying, you know, the police and what they have to go through their job is extremely important. I know you have a lot on your plate. We've talked a lot over the last several years about different things, and staffing one of them, and you're just trying to get up to speed on that. I hope that doesn't fall off the radar in that regard. I'd really like for that to be an ongoing kind of relationship building opportunity.
Absolutely.
The other thing was we had done smoke detector program in both Brookside as well as Wilson Hills. Are we looking to do that again? I know that's the Red Cross. They do a super job and provide a lot of.
They kind of shifted their gears a little bit this year, concentrating on the city of Columbus, but we are going to have one somewhere in our jurisdiction this year. We're not sure where it's going to be. We haven't finalized that area. Most likely it's going to be somewhere that's like a long response from the station, just because we want to have those people trying to work our way out backwards. So we'll let you know once we know where that is. Okay. One thing that we are wanting to do here soon, we got to get some of our resources back in place, meaning staffing. But we'd like to fire up our CPR program again. It's not in a position right now as of today, but we're hoping in 3 or 4 months that we can do some programs. And one that Ms. Beatty and I actually brainstormed with, maybe doing something at both the country clubs, inviting folks in those neighborhoods to come and do just a large hands-only, what we call hands-only CPR program. You can do 10, 15 people at a time. I don't want to speak for Chief Cochran, but probably will work. But the reality is, though, is that that's very effective, and it's also a great PR tool for us, but also all of you guys to get out there and be engaged with your residents.
Questions? Thank you, Chief.
Over to the tour. Thank you guys for being here.
And I know we have some folks from Flock Camera, but before we get to that, I know we have a policy about how many minutes, but we're very, so you just relax. You can talk from there. You can come up here. You can whatever's most comfortable.
I'm okay with here.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
Good evening. My name is Lori Dorn Cook, and I live at 6718 Bay Boulevard. And I'm here tonight to talk about how the township's decision to put sidewalks on the right of way in front of my property that I've lived in for 31 years will decrease my property value and increase my legal risk. The right of way authority for only 6 homes is being invoked in Brookside. In a recent phone call I had with Ian Moore at the township offices on the 14th of February, he seemed a little unsure about the legal ramifications for these 6 homeowners. So a quick search, I was able to find the following. Ohio Revised Code 4511.68 prohibits parking on any part of a sidewalk, including driveways. That would take between 7 to 10 feet of my driveway, depending on where the concrete is put for the sidewalks. So that opens up the question in my life for, are we comfortable parking on McVeigh Boulevard during the day or overnight, and what that looks like? And could that then be prohibited later because who wants parking on the boulevard? Ohio Revised Code 729.01, pairs of sidewalks can be assessed to the homeowner. Ohio Revised Code 723.011, control of sidewalks go to the legislative authority and may require sidewalks to be produced known and any nuisance. The free sidewalks that are being proposed are a distraction to the real issue of people speeding on McVeigh Boulevard, blowing through the stop signs, using it as a cut through. And it's not a new problem, as I have witnessed firsthand over the past 31 years living on McVeigh Boulevard. I would argue the block around the school is probably the safest part of McVeigh due to the signage and the crosswalk. Cars speed up after they pass the school in both directions. I'm still waiting on options from the township that curtail speeding on McVeigh Boulevard. For example, painted crosswalks at every intersection on McVeigh Boulevard. blinking lights at the stop signs, raised crosswalk, not the same as speed bumps, but a raised flat crosswalk, filling in the hazardous culverts that make walkability harder on McVeigh Boulevard, and more radar speed signs that are working. They're fantastic. It's the best thing I've ever seen since I've been there. This radar speed sign that tells people what they're driving when they go down McVeigh Boulevard. And I think it was in your email that you said that the average speed is about 23 miles per hour now. That is working. Fantastic. Imagine if my husband and I decided to put our house up for sale. The conversation with a potential buyer might be, oh, the township invoked the right of way after all these years? Wow. Wonder what they're going to do next. And if the house across the street from mine goes up for sale without sidewalks and no limits for their driveway, well, which home would you buy? When was the last time the township invoked the right of way authority against a homeowner and in the process took away partial use of their driveway, made permanent changes to the right of way adjacent to their property, and created new legal liability for the homeowner? This is an aggressive move which creates disparate impact amongst homeowners. If the trustees have determined that sidewalks are necessary in Brookside, it is only right to have a ballot initiative, let the voters decide to support this need going forward. Then maybe we can include all of McVeigh Boulevard and not just the 6 points. Thank you for your time.
So first of all, thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. I will say that Perry Township is not one to invoke a lot of responsibilities on our residents. We don't do things such as eminent domain, those types of things that you tend to see in the newspaper. This is a very beginning, a very preliminary part of a process that is for a grant through state routes schools with ODOT. It's federal funds, and we don't know that we're going to receive, but it is part of it. So it is obviously we have to do the surveying work to understand where these sidewalks would go. We do not have a separate fund to do sidewalks for all parts of the township. We've heard people who like sidewalks and who don't like sidewalks. And this is a limited area for only the school safety. We appreciate the comment about the speed monitors. They're not inexpensive, but we have 2 over there. And if we find that we need more, we'll be looking at that as well. The police do targeted enforcement. Those monitors help us understand if there is speeding and what particular time of the day it is. So our officers are over there just as much as they're in every other part of the township to address the speeding. I agree with you. Not everyone obeys a stop sign. And sometimes there's a tendency for our own residents not to obey those stop signs. They get in a hurry, they're going from point A to B, and they don't necessarily address the rules of the road. So we share many of the comments that you talked about. We have investigated a lot of different things, such as temporary speed bumps, kind that are pumped, kind that are flat. We've looked at flashing stop signs. Those are extremely expensive. And so we've looked at all those options because we've heard so many times, not only in Brookside, but other parts of the township, speeding is a problem. 25 miles per hour, it's easy to go over that mark. And people that tend to use McVeigh, for instance, as a cut through between 161 and Snapper, they don't live there and they're trying to get through. They don't worry too much about the stop signs at the speed. So we share many of the same concerns that you have. We're just trying to look at options at this point. We really appreciate the comment about the legal ramifications to homeowners. And that's something that I commit to you that we've been talking to our legal counsel about. we promise no matter what, we're going to be having public comment period and meetings with the residents about this, especially those who are impacted, yourself included. So nothing's getting done until we have this conversation, so that we answer all the questions, we look at both the options. But you can obviously come to any meeting that we have. You can reach out to Ian at any time. You can call me or any board member here. That work probably will not be done until 25 if it's done. So we are far out from that work. But, you know, we have looked at many of those options. Just, you know, I can tell you that we do our due diligence as best we can. Because we kind of put ourselves in your position, saying, if we live there, what would we want? What would we be concerned about? So maintenance issues of sidewalks, that would be something that has to be done with the school system. We're not necessarily ones that have snow blower to get on the sidewalk to do that. We may have to enter into a mutual agreement with the school district to do that. In regards to replacement or repair of the sidewalks, we would have to put together a sidewalk policy. And we would most likely advocate that the township take on that responsibility. I know that in the city of Columbus, what they do is they require the homeowner to replace and repair. We're not big on that, but that would be a board decision that we'd have to pass a policy with your input on, so that you understand what responsibilities and what our responsibilities are. So there are many issues. It's not just as easy as kind of putting down some concrete saying there's a sidewalk.
I understand.
So we're going to have many conversations about this, and we're not even close to that. But we appreciate all the comments that you brought up, because we talked about all of them. We know that those issues have not yet been resolved.
Just think one more thing.
Absolutely.
The information you did put out did have my house on it. So what I'm trying to show is that it's already been shown that my house is one of the houses.
Right.
So I want to be clear that if I try to sell my home, if I wanted to put my home up for sale, it's already been targeted as one of the homes that would be getting this. So I just want to show you that your work is appreciated, but at the same time, whether you made a final decision or you're still in your decision-making time over the next 2 years, I'm impacted. Because I'm already in that map
discussion.
that you posted that everyone's sharing online all over the world. So it's there. So I'm just saying, I understand you're still working through the details, but it does impact us now, even though just the flags have gone up. I've had people reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, what's going on in your front yard? So that's important to me. And I just want you to know that's why I'm here, because it's now in my yard.
And those flags should be going out. Okay. Can we take those out? Okay. Tomorrow? Okay. Understand, we have an open door policy. So you don't necessarily have to wait for 2 weeks to be talking to us. We can talk any given time for as long. So I know my wife tells me I talk way too much because I'm a politician, but I don't know.
Are you asking for our opinion of that?
Of whether I talk too much, I already know your opinion of that. So. You have my cell number. Call anytime. Okay. We appreciate it. Moving on. Chief, I don't know what order you want to go in. This is folks from Flock, and I know that we've talked about these cameras before. I don't know if you want Chief Deputy Gilbert to talk first, or you want to introduce him, or.
So Justin's with Flock, Chief Deputy Gilbert from the Sheriff's Office, as most of you know. Justin has a few things he wants to present.
Yeah.
About a 10-minute presentation to kind of cover Flock. One of the things I was asking Chief Gilbert to do is just kind of talk about the program they have, success they've had, what they do, Justin can answer a lot of the questions on their side, but on a law enforcement side, obviously Chief Gilbert can answer those questions.
Yeah, so I'll follow up after his trustee.
Okay.
Do you control that or just?
It's okay. I can go ahead and just shift through.
Or you like me, you like control?
I mean, if you want to, that's fine. I don't have a clicker, so you're,
That's possible.
yeah, absolutely. No worries.
I might be jumping around a little bit
That's
depending on
okay.
what questions come up, so. All right, so I appreciate y'all having us, or having me this evening. I'm here not to belabor the point of exactly how this works and how great it is. I'm here to kind of give you a little bit more information on some things that may be really important to you folks in your community. At Flock, we were created by the community to basically help law enforcement help us. So, as a community member, so we think it's really important to be extremely transparent with what this is, what it isn't, and get ahead of those things and answer questions for you folks as well as any community concerns that may come up. We think that's really important. So let's kind of start by why Flock ALPR. When you look at the current reality, and this isn't the same in every community, but really common trends we're seeing are police headcounts on the decline. So it makes it more difficult for law enforcement to do their job with the same amount or less people. Crime being on the rise, and trust being really important to communities. Communities want to make sure things are done in certain ways. So that's kind of the reality we're seeing. The opportunity that we're seeing is that this technology can absolutely act as a force multiplier. I'll let them kind of speak more to that, but it's really about capturing and distributing objective evidence to the right user. So what we're kind of doing is detecting when something's not quite right, but then alerting law enforcement with that information so that they can actually be proactive with it. And moving on to, want to kind of give you a little bit of a background on how the tech works. I know you've kind of understood a little bit, but basically what this is doing is capturing a picture of the back of a vehicle. What people don't really realize is how important that is to law enforcement. I don't know if you watch the news, you see video from a business or a doorbell, camera or something like that. And, you see it's posted, law enforcement will post it on, it's on the news, it's on Facebook or something like that. What they're trying to do is identify who that is or what is that vehicle. They don't have objective evidence at that point. So, let's say it's a, silver Toyota in this picture. If you didn't have the license plate, your officers are already having to do the work to try to figure that out, going through registration databases and all of those kind of things. What this is doing is actually saving a lot of that time to give you the actual evidence that you can do something with. Because once you have that license plate, that's kind of key up, we'll probably have some better examples of that. But these cameras aren't just detecting the license plate. They're also able to tell you the make of the vehicle, the color of the vehicle, and some identifying features. If it has bumper stickers or window stickers, you can actually search by that. So if you have a witness description or a video to go off of that's captured the vehicle, and you can put in those parameters, and it will hopefully get you to the actual license plate of the vehicle in question. So it is indiscriminate evidence. It's not picking and choosing vehicles. It's basically pointing out ones that are, it's running it against the database like NCIC, which are national databases, and coming back to you and saying, pointing out that's a stolen vehicle. We don't know who's driving it. We can't see who's driving it. It's just pointing out that something's not quite right. It's an Amber Alert. It's a stolen vehicle, those kind of things. Some have questions about the subscription service, the cost effectiveness of a subscription service being infrastructure free. What this allows you to do is kind of understand what the cost is up front rather than, you know, I don't know if you ever purchased maybe some expensive cameras before and, you know, 5 years later, they're kind of obsolete. You kind of then you find out the replacement cost and those kind of things. This is just known up front. It is $2,500 per camera per year currently. It was asked to mention that the price is increasing on April 1st. It will be going up to $3,000 per camera. Also really important, there are no people in these photos. It's the back of the vehicle and the license plate. There's no facial recognition in this, and there's no traffic enforcement involved. So these aren't meant to be, you know, red light cameras or speed, you know, sending speed tickets or anything like that. It's really just meant to be a tool for law enforcement to use in several different ways, which we'll talk about. So I'll just run through this real quick. What is it? It's license plate recognition, gathering objective evidence and facts about vehicles, not people. It's alerting law enforcement of wanted vehicles. And it does adhere to the state laws around these kind of things. What isn't it? Sometimes even a bigger point. It's not facial recognition. There is no personally identifiable information in Flock. So you can't search for a person. You know, it's only facts about vehicles. And another thing, sometimes concerns come up about, you know, what about all the data this is collecting? You know, can they just go in and see what I'm doing, where I'm at all the time? The data is not stored for beyond 30 days. So that is a limit. You know, I'm sure from an investigative standpoint, if you found some information on day 31, it'd be great to go back in there, but that's that balance that we want to keep between having tons of data that's unnecessary and having some time window that's useful for investigations when it's actually needed. Ways this can be used, it can be used as a proactive tool, an investigative tool, but also potentially as a deterrent. Proactive, they're going to receive, law enforcement is going to be able to receive real-time alerts, generally within about 10 to 15 seconds. If a stolen vehicle passes the camera, if a wanted vehicle associated with someone that's wanted, it passes the vehicle, if it's an Amber Alert, those things will give law enforcement immediate alerts so that they can react in real time and not just find out after the fact. Now, if a crime does occur, this can also be used as an investigative tool. So sometimes there are questions around, you know, are we going to see a crime increase because of this? Well, this does nothing to increase crime. You may see an initial spike in those kind of things just because you're capturing more of it. But what you will tend to see is a drop off consistently after that, because you're actually able to, if you have the objective evidence, you can solve the crime, and then, you know, repeat offenders aren't able to just get away with those things. And another one that's not as easy to measure is the deterrence factor. We are doing some things, some studies and whatnot. We don't have any, you know, numbers that I can really present you with, but we have been told by a lot of the departments and agencies that we work with across the country that they do see this as a deterrence. You know, if someone pulls in a stolen vehicle, probably intending to do other crime, if you have law enforcement available to, you know, kind of just show their presence, a lot of times you prevent another crime from happening. Questions so far? But we think these things are really important. I've kind of talked about some of them, but a few things I want to point out that may eliminate some questions from the get-go. But this footage is not owned by Flock. It's not shared by Flock. The images that are in the system are owned by the agency or the city. So you control who sees the information, who accesses it, if you share it with other agencies or not. Those things are all determined by your you know, city or agency. 30-day retention. But I guess the next, I don't want to recover things here, but the human bias is kind of taken out of that. If you have a witness that kind of gives an incorrect description or, officers aren't, it kind of takes that out of it. This is objective. It's telling you that car is stolen. The rest of it, if it's not a stolen vehicle, it just goes by and that data is deleted after 30 days. So it's only showing you when things are important for you to know. This all data retention, it is stored in like the highest level of end-to-end encryption in the Amazon Web Service Cloud. So data security, very important. I don't know the technical jargon in that, but that is something we take very seriously. And any of these items, if you do have questions, I'll try to answer the best I can, or get you answers from those that might know better. Accountability and transparency with this, as a citizen, as we all are, I kind of want to know, like, can they just, maybe they're thinking, hey, the flock guy, yeah, we're just going to look him up, see what he's been up to. Can they do that? That is not something that can be, anything can be misused, but there is a built-in audit into this system so that any search that law enforcement makes or anyone that has access to it, any search that's made is logged and it's there forever. So that cannot be deleted. It can be altered so that that this is being used in the right ways. That can be, it's determined by policy that you guys would develop, but what information is required to access this data to begin with? Do we need a case number? That's what a lot of them, how a lot of them do it. Super important to make sure there's accountability and make sure it's being used the right way. So that can be, reported on per your policy. But again, not facial recognition, not predictive policing, no personal information, not used for, red lights, ticketing, those kind of things. And another big thing is it's not connected to any third-party databases. So like your Carfax, DMVs, those things are still kept separate. So if you get a flock alert, it is suggested you still go into those systems that law enforcement already has to verify that what the picture's telling them matches what is still in the system. It's still active and hasn't been something that's cleared or whatnot. I will bring up the transparency portal. This is something that Chief, we had kind of discussed and you are seems like in favor of. It is an optional, something we offer. This is not an additional cost or anything, but this is a transparency portal that you can use to share with the community. Again, being proactive and transparent with this, we really recommend, because it answers a lot of questions and makes people feel comfortable when they really understand what this is, and again what it isn't. So it's good. You can turn this on, show what is detected. So what is the technology capturing? What is it not capturing? What is the policy? How many cameras do you have? What departments are you or are you not sharing with, that kind of thing? How long is the data saved? What are prohibited uses? So those things are, helps eliminate a lot of questions and just kind of puts it out there, for your community members. But that is something that we can help with. That it is customizable based on, what your policies are. They can be more stringent than others if needed. There are a lot of departments in the area that already utilize this system that you can kind of use as kind of a guide, make sure they're doing it. But big thing with this tool is it actually solves crime. I'll kind of let you guys talk about maybe some of the successes you've seen with it. I'm not going to get into a lot of that. I'd rather that come from the people actually solving the crime. So any questions around any of this that I've covered? I really wanted to touch on, kind of the common things that come up, with questions around privacy and data.
So if somebody had a car that was registered to a license plate, but yet they flipped the license plate, would it pick up and say, wait, something's swirly here, license plate doesn't match what the car is? Would it alert? Would it be able to alert that?
As long as it's entered.
Yeah, that happens quite frequently where it'll say stolen vehicle and the plate is stolen and the car that went past is not the registered vehicle, which means they've put stolen plates from another stolen vehicle onto the vehicle, which is indicative of now you have.
That doesn't sync with the DMV scans the license plate. How's that gonna know that that license?
So the license plate comes up, and then as the license plate was entered through the national, or through NCIC, it'll register to a, like say a 1999 Honda, and the plate is stolen, and then when you look at the picture, even though that's the stolen car of the Honda, you'll see that it's on a Kia. So, stopping that car, that's the plate that's supposed to be on the stolen, which means it's probably a good chance that that Kia is also stolen.
I got a quick question. Is data that's collected, is that subject to a public records request?
We have not, first of all, the data is only stored for 30 days. If it's downloaded and being used in investigation, my understanding is that that's not it.
Once we are advised of the information, and I'll just use an example, while sitting here, it's gone off twice, Perry Township. So if one of my deputies was to stop that car, and that was the stolen vehicle, this email alert becomes a part of the public record of the actual hit, which led them to that vehicle, which would be a part of the report, and then we would keep that email as a part of the public record. If that car is never found, it just falls off after 30 days.
What if somebody said, well, you have the system, I want to see when my kid got in, how about that? I want to see when
We don't have that record. We wouldn't
what
have-
happens to that data? Is that data stored?
Within the 30-day period, it's there. Theoretically, if that car passed.
Right.
But if,
Past the
if we don't
cameras.
have a reason to look for that
Yeah,
specific
we
car,
would, we would not.
we can't.
So it wouldn't be subject to public records in that
No.
regard. During that
So-
30-day window, if somebody said, I want to see all of
So
the
there's no
traffic
recording
for the last 30 days.
What license plates were?
The only time that it would affect us as public records, just like the chief explained, if that car is entered, the license plate's entered, then if the camera gets a hit, we're alerted. Anything else, no, or, Idaho.
Yeah.
So the Idaho killer, the University of Idaho killer, when they knew they were looking for a white Nissan. They didn't have a license plate number, so they typed in white Nissan between this year. And you can do a search in the general vicinity, and you partner with other agencies around you to look at a white Nissan. That's how they found University of Idaho killer. They found 3.
Yeah, they were able to narrow it down in close proximity to the other, just across the border into, I believe it was Morgan.
Yeah,
Based on registrations. for
based
white
on
vehicles.
registration, so you
So
find,
not specific to flock, but based on.
well, it's a clock system. You look at how many.
The use of that technology will come out as that trial becomes,
Yeah, so what they did, they went into Flock, the agency did and said, we're looking for white Nissan. They found 3 within the area of the time they were looking for, and were able to get 3 license plate numbers and find out who owned what cars based on that information. At that point, they developed a suspect and followed him across country using Flock cameras.
So without flock, however, and forgive me, I know that's why you're here, without flock, you invest, because I know we've had other issues, like the hit and run of the sign outside Brookside,
Yes.
that kind of thing, where you
Yes.
were looking for all Acuras that
Correct.
were.
Yes,
So without this, you use other means to get that type of data.
yes. You
It's not a
can,
live
but it's not gonna
report,
be
if
the
you
same.
will, I
Correct, yeah.
understand, but
It's a different database.
So I don't understand how it's recorded. So I thought things were recorded for 30 days. They fall off, after 30 days. Right. But could you go back and look 7 days ago? Like you saw Ultimate come up with the hills.
If we have a reason to.
so I'll give you an example.
I know, but I'm saying though, but so that data is recorded for 30 days, right?
Yes.
but it, I'm sorry.
I'll give you an example of a bank robbery that occurred with a black BMW with no plate. And they use this as an example. So the bank gets robbed, black BMW with no plate, and the camera catches it. Well, most criminals, the reason they get caught is they're not too smart. He did a dry run 2 weeks earlier past the bank in that black BMW with his plates on it. So he had no idea of this technology that was in that community. So they were able to put black BMW in and scan for 30 days, all the black BMWs that went by, found him a week earlier, which led the investigators to start looking at him. So then that is where it becomes a public record. 'Cause
I'm
now
just
you're-
getting back, could somebody say,
No.
okay, I know you keep this for 30
Right.
days.
Yeah, no,
I'm
it's not.
on vacation, I want to see if anybody took,
Yeah.
my
And
stored
anybody has
Corvette.
one- Yeah, whatever, like,
And-
right.
Why couldn't they do that?
Because it's not our record until we have to get in the system to find the information.
But that data is still recorded.
But I thought the
By
data
the
was
township.
owned by the agency.
No, it's
Yeah,
owned
you-
by Flock. It's-
You cannot access the data without an investigative reason. So I don't know that this is closer to the question you're asking, but I cannot access the data. So if I wanted to see my vehicle, whereas then I cannot go into the system and access the data. I'm not CJIS certified. You have to be CJIS certified to go into the
So
into the
somebody's
system.
on vacation, you're on vacation, you're gone for 3 weeks, you come home and find your car stolen. If we don't have a description of a vehicle to look for, we have no way of pulling that information. We can't access it without a investigative reason. So you can type in a theft, but you don't know what kind of car.
So so you guys have to put in an investigative request
Right.
to access the system, like,
Yeah.
hey, we have something on.
Yeah, this is different than like our cameras that we
Right.
use, or I'm sorry, the signs that we use around the township that collects data. These are collecting license plates, but we don't have access to it unless we have a reason to pull.
Right.
So
Like
we,
you have to go through a formal request to
Right, you have to-
access it, just to do that.
And we actually don't own the data. Did I misunderstand
Yeah,
that?
Yeah, we don't grant access to anyone. We don't access the data. The agency owns the data. It's stored in the cloud for 30 days. To even look at to do a search, you have to type in the investigative reason. And then that's audited. I can get you more, maybe someone that's a little more familiar with exactly how that works if you still have some follow-up questions on it.
So we have to follow our guidelines for these use. It has to be for machines that have law enforcement purposes. So we just couldn't get in there.
And I totally get that. I guess I'm trying to understand the difference between policy, which that sounds, like obviously that's the right policy versus public records requirements if a resident were to come to us for what really isn't an investigation, but a curiosity. maybe.
is that what you're saying? Like, if somebody wants the public record of all the data that's kept?
Yeah, or because technically it's out there for 30 days, right? So is it subject to those public records? And I'm sure the question's been answered by someone that is much more public records expert than me. That's, I'm just trying to make sure we're protected, whereas
Right.
even in the past, we had that with email lists,
Right, so I would say we
technology
don't,
changes.
that's not a public record that we own
Mhm.
until we enter the information to receive the public record, if that makes sense.
So then we don't, the agency, if we are the agency doesn't own the data.
Let me get you
Until we
a
don't.
much a better answer from our people exactly how that works. But that is not an issue that, we work with
So
thousands of
is
agencies.
there a policy associated with this? I mean, in the sense that, for instance, I know that we have 2 townships that, Clinton and Franklin, that utilize this. They have, I assume, have a policy. in place.
We have one of,
You have one as well.
it's the same policy we've had for over 20 years with our plate readers that have been on the back of the,
Right.
on the back of the cruiser. So.
Does that address this issue?
Yes.
Okay. Can a copy of that
Sure.
policy be provided to the board?
Yeah, absolutely.
So getting a little bit more into the detail, I know this is, what you normally do is a 2-year contract. But I think what the chief may be posing to us is this is a pilot project. To see whether this works. We can make this a 1-year contract because it is a pilot. Probably identify an area that has the highest crime in the township, although we're pretty safe community, we always say, but there is still crime around us, so maybe, and I'm sure you've identified that area. Okay. And how many cameras does that require?
3.
And Arlington Point is an apartment condo complex down on Lane and Trustee.
So then quote for, if I understand this correctly, for the pilot is $3,000 per camera per year for the
Until,
subscription.
excuse me, until April 1st, it's actually 2,500 per camera per year and $350 to install for the first year.
And that is A to Z entire.
That includes all the LTE, that the subscription model includes the LTE, the upkeep of the cameras, so they go obsolete, they stop working. That's replaced. Includes the data storage. That's all the software, unlimited user access,
So it's 2,800 per camera then with installation.
maybe 2,850.
20.
If I could just share, I know we're talking a lot about stolen vehicles crime, but within the first week of us utilizing them in Prairie Township, we had a 77-year-old male that the camera hit on a missing vehicle, on a missing person. The vehicle was entered into the National Crime Database as a missing person. 77-year-old male with dementia, hadn't driven in 20 years, basically stole or took his grandson's car. And our deputies were able to catch up in the vehicle, get it pulled over. He thought he was in Indiana, had no idea he was in Columbus. When we reached out to the agency that was looking for him, of the Coshocton, the family was like, we've never been to Columbus. We have no idea why he's in Columbus. They were very thankful and said, you probably saved his life because he would have ran out of gas, got out, maybe started walking, and who knows what would happen. So that's just an example of where with a missing male, elderly with dementia, we were able to successfully reunite him with his family. The other thing I want to talk about too is when we had the carjacking in Columbus, as it relates to the two twin kids that were taken, you have the availability to enter before an Amber Alert, before an agency can manually enter a vehicle you're looking for. So I know that it's very frustrating as investigators if they talked about if their flock camera go a little bit further south, because they're not aware of it on campus. There's 75 flock cameras that the Ohio State University Department of Public Safety pays for, shares the information with Columbus. So the Columbus cars that work that area, but they were just a few blocks north, starting with the cameras, and they thought that that would have been very beneficial in their investigation. And then another incident, a Grove City police officer was dragged by a vehicle that fled from the park on the news. And about 40 minutes later, that vehicle was entered by all the agencies in Franklin County were notified of that vehicle fleeing after it had struck an officer. Reynoldsburg Sergeant had said to the dispatcher over there, put that vehicle into our flock system. Within 10 minutes, they hit at the Sam's Club off of 70 out at the 70 and Taylor Station Road. In Reynoldsburg were able to apprehend that vehicle without the flock system. You know how long where that car might have went. So it's just not. It's about safer communities, and it's about the availability to also keep our potentially bring our crime down. But they've been very beneficial just to those short instances. I know another success story in Reynoldsburg. A woman had got a restraining order against her ex-husband. And the detective was working with her and she was being stalked, and they were able to put his car into the system. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, Reynoldsburg officers found him. He was violating the protection order, pulled him over. He had duct tape, a large butcher knife, and rope, and admitted to the detectives in Reynoldsburg that he was on the way to the house to attempt to kidnap her and take her. So the system really is very beneficial for our communities. And if in fact you guys come on board with the cameras associated with, we have the sheriff's office, 21 agencies out of the 28 in Franklin County will be utilizing the flock system. Worthington is one of them, and I believe they're getting 30 cameras. I'm not exactly sure where they're placing them here in Worthington.
Yeah, I think those starting with less, I believe, but yeah, many.
I do have a question, Trustee, and I think that's now, if we want the cameras, is there a cost associated with that?
There is, critical to, they are fixed, they are in the ground, meant to be permanent. If you did, so I would say, let's not go that route. Let's make sure we have them in the right spots. It is pretty rare for departments to want to move them because they are pretty valuable in most places. They'll generally just add one.
Right.
But with that being said, yes, there is a cost associated. I don't want to give you a cost on that because all the stuff is changing April 1st. But yes, there is a cost.
So this is on the agenda for March 6th.
Yes.
as well. To be considered our first reading. Okay. Thank you. Deputy. Very much. Public comment period. I know. Well, the longest, yeah. Brookside.
I'm gonna get very lighthearted after that conversation and say Easter egg hunt is April 8th, for Brookside. We did have our budget setting session and, plans for the 2023 year. Instead of the traditional summer event, we're going to work on doing a series of small pop-up events, spread out throughout the area, the neighborhood, and, that we might be able to incorporate something when you're ready, with the CPR training. I know we talked about that before. So we can certainly work with you and work with you to do that. We'd love to bring that to us. The entrance renovations should start, or the rebuilding of the monument, should start this spring. For sure that was for winter, and we're just working through revisions on plans and things like that, and how far can we get with money that. So I think that's. Oh, and then I did want to follow up. Ian, do you have anything new on the street lights? They're still not the AP still hasn't fixed the street lights. Okay. And then did we get any feedback on the intersection? Issue with Snowbird and
They adjusted, they were out there monitoring it, looking to see if there was an issue with the loops.
Franklin County or Columbus?
They were out there,
so they didn't come back to you and tell you if there was anything.
no, they didn't say anything was wrong, he said we couldn't fix it, he'd have to get the engineer on it, he would let me know. I was under the impression it's been
Okay.
I bet we follow up tomorrow on that, and then,
And let me know so that I can communicate back to residents as well.
and AET as well.
And AV, yes.
I just what was has to be. Street
Oh,
lights
again?
are,
Okay.
yeah, I did. Street lights. Work orders are worked as they come in, the outages taking priority over street.
Were they able to give you a ballpark?
They all those, they're working.
Do you have the work order numbers that you could share and I can reach out to our AEP contact?
Yeah.
I have a question. Particularly the one at 161 in McVeigh, that area gets dark. Maybe we missed, maybe we crossed paths. I didn't see that one working. Okay.
I didn't think I was. Saw that. Sure.
I'll drive by there on my way home and double check again. We don't yet have a time. We're waiting for the school district to get back. Are
Okay.
you gonna be the bunny?
Maybe. Oh,
That's all I have for Brookside.
Worthington Hills has its community breakfast on 4 and 12. Friday. Haven't registered for that, so let us know. And they are entering their budget season as well, in their membership drive, so next month, I'm going to have a more extensive report, for sure. EPCOM developed, anything?
We do not.
All quiet? Okay. Zoning.
Check.
Yes. Before you is a set of regular session minutes, February 6th, 2023. For a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
That's support. Second, vote?
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Do we want to approve minutes for the recap? Do the special session. And I see in the
Yes.
Dropbox there.
second,
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve the special session. meeting of the recap.
second, vote? Yes.
That's-
Thank you, Mr. Well,
Nothing new.
Road department.
An update on the full water line project. They plan on starting construction and possible salt cutting the road. Good morning. I haven't. That's 48 hours of fire. There's a big piece of. Yeah, they were planning on staging this week. They should. Our signs went up today, the website's updated. School. I spoke with the bus garage today.
Yeah.
Updated them. I created an email. I will update them where the construction is taking place. Just to give them an idea. There's only one school bus that goes back around. The elementary. School. 3 bus stops.
You're meeting with the on-site supervisor.
Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Plan on leaving Monday.
You're gonna have David Dunn on the sixth. Okay. Regional Vice President will be here. Once a month.
Probably good information. For women's part of it as well.
It will be good information for
I don't know if they reached
fire.
out, it was part of their plan to reach out to you guys. They'll be working on something good.
I've not said like anything on that.
Starting Monday through June.
It's the whole road post.
No, it'll be open the whole time, kind of like, all over the engine. We have another water line project in Brookside, in the biome for starting about the middle of March. I sent out an email several months ago with information on this one. I kind of passed out the original plans.
Recalling that, I'm sure you did,
They're extending a water line, 6-inch water main from basically through the last property on the land. It'll be all in the right of way.
It's just the same
Okay.
contractor.
This is the same contractor.
Okay.
I'll be meeting with him later this month to get more information.
you can please share that.
No, go ahead.
If you can please share that as you have it,
Um,
want to make sure, obviously just the standard communications and to avoid any concerns folks have that.
Once I have information, I will. One of the driveways is.
We, do have some new residents that just recently moved in on that street, so they may not be familiar with. what is-
Or we will go ahead. Please.
The
The only reason I say that is if there's always new residents. We don't, our database isn't perfect, it's good, but it's perfect. So we can do more things. Let schools know, it knows work. And
Okay, part of the water line projects with the green, I've got the surfacing estimates for the county. It looks like it's being paved with gold. What's that?
Is it not?
Prices are up quite a bit this year. Total estimate to have Circle and Green paid, mill paid, fiber mat is, $341,401. Upward agreement, they'd be reimbursing $101,530. These are the two streets. Circle and Green, the supply for the offices. Tonight, I'd like to ask the board to approve. And then the county. Resurfacing 241,460. Why would not? It is Aqua. This, the portion 101 is of the overlay. I did not include that full depth repairs. 13,000 and 14,000 onto their. Most of that. This is edge to edge page.
Right, second. Vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Going along with,
Oh, Chief,
I have
okay.
a question. I'm sorry, the boiler is real loud in my ear, so I couldn't hear exactly what you're saying. Will Circle and Green have water hydrants?
yes, they're scheduling, I think it's March 1st, Wednesday next week is the install the water tap. That's just for the new lines, you know. There's limited shut-offs back there.
There'll be a trade, okay.
So-
And the spec is ours, we can talk offline if you want to, but yeah, let's make sure the spec is our spec.
Next year. Also do.
Okay, this,
Can you do me a favor? Can you make sure that the chief meets the on-site supervisor? You take him out there, let him get it. Give me, give me the plans,
yeah. I'll
let him ask questions.
I apologize, I wasn't in the, this boiler, the pipe right here.
I can't hear either, but
Okay,
that's
sorry.
because I'm getting old, so. But yeah, we want to make sure that you have a connection with this contractor. We have used this contractor has been used with Aqua projects previously. They've done a good job. The communication is just huge. And so we're constantly pushing that. And on top of it, I'm sure they're now hired and they keep saying, I've said it 100 times, there's a trustee that lives on the street. So, but the point is, we do that for every street. We just want to make sure it's done right. Wants residents to know what's going on. We don't like it when people are not given enough information. It's like when you renovate a house, contractor comes in for 2 weeks and then they leave for 6. And then you get frustrated because you don't know where your contractor is. So it's a constant, we want a weekly update. We want them to come to our meeting once a month. We want to know what's going on, what they've done and what they haven't done. So,
If it's even shut off for an hour, we want to know about it.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Circle. Right, that obviously we can bring subject to, right? Yes, inside. Circle and Green acres.
Yeah, yes, oh. Ms. Elliott reminds me of the time, a hydrant, we're replacing 10 hydrants on that street. Those hydrants are compatible with his equipment.
Right.
Okay,
And we had that issue before, if you recall. Or they put the wrong kind, or they ordered the wrong kind? or
Yeah,
something?
well, they ordered something wrong last year. I don't know because they were compatible. I think it was there was a bunch of problems. Some of them they had to stick it out. Well, it just.
Trying to learn from
it
past
just looked
experience.
too-
Yeah,
Every hydrant standing on the grass.
right.
They, because it kind of has clear base. Those ones that were up on Hickory Ridge, there was like a pipe that it just looked really. They were some were kind of tilted and.
We had issues.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Ian, I know you came in here with a list, now you got 3 pages.
All messed up. As part of the resurfacing, I'd like the board to approve the agreement between, resurfacing agreement. with the Berry Township.
Second.
So,
Yes.
yes.
Thank you. It's all about circle green. I did receive concrete quotes that are in the Dropbox.
I'm the only question I have is looking at so Decker quoted 500 linear feet, the other two 427.
Savco, well, on my list, just, I had 427 as.
Yeah,
a
I
high
mean,
number.
the only number on your bid, on bid 3 maximum concrete, you have 21,585. But if you look at 500 based on their bid on 427, they come out at $50.55, which puts them at 25,275.
I didn't do the math on the.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, why are they 4,000 lower? So I went into Maxima and,
So
just
you're
looked at
talking
it.
for the 5.
Right,
Yes,
right.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so their big 3 would actually be 25,275.
Yes.
I've never heard of them. And
It's
I
probably
sent out an email to a bunch of my contractor buddies to say, hey, have you ever heard of Maxima? And nobody said, everybody's like, never heard of them. So my question, getting back to the significance of the project, we want to go with somebody who's known, I mean, they're not the low end.
What did you do that? What is your recommendation?
I would prefer to go with.
Yeah.
Decker is not quality work within the township. They've been quick and they're out. Will that be coordinated with the paving? It's gonna be done before the paving. It always looks, you can always just tell, it doesn't like tear up the road, it kind of messes it up. It'd be a shame to have a nice new road and all of a sudden we put these in. This would be all done before the road, everybody was included it. They don't have to worry about asphalt patching in front of the village, or tearing up, just patching. That makes it easy. It does. All these quotes have the road department doing the top signal. Bob Wood was on that street. So I'll get his recommendation. I'll see.
So that's your recommendation, is to go with that.
I would
propose.
My recommendation is to go. 500 linear feet gives us room. There are, all these areas I listed are areas that need replaced. There's others that are borderline that I left off 500 feet. I think. Then the decision is on these addresses with multiple numbers. Do we do the full right way? The first number is sections of concrete that need the other section of the right way.
Is that what
It's just
was
Maxima's-
Maxima's quote? Because I was gonna ask you a question. It's like, so they're 11 feet or 22 feet, so that's the difference.
The 427 is the high, is.
Isn't taking the
driveways.
full amount. So is 500 gonna get you where you need to go to additional if you replace the full amount? And I would just say replace the full amount, and you're not scabbing down the driveway.
Right. I agree, that's what.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the board to approve that there's estimate of $25,785.
Second,
Oh,
yes.
yes.
Thank you.
Anything else?
It's been a long time since I spent.
Trailers,
Yeah.
anything?
Well, now that he knows how much those trucks are, he's gonna be right out this budget.
I could get like 6 or 7.
Chief?
Fire EMS. There were 14 calls for service in Perry Township, reporting to fire in the month of January.
There's nothing on your list, Chief.
I do have one.
Oh, you do have.
One, I think after hearing Chief Zambito talk about his expenditures, you guys probably appreciate me a little better now. Number two, I would like to request a popcorn machine. Just throwing it out here. It's a little addictive.
But you wanted a power ring, donut machine.
The power, you know what?
Morning.
That was this morning. One of our retired officers, Doc, brought in like 32 dozen donuts this morning. There was a lot of police officers in sugar cones this morning. The one thing I want to talk about is grants, real quick. I kind of want to know moving forward, right now is grant season. And when it comes to grants for equipment and so forth, would you like me to come to the board with any grant that we're going to apply for? Or if it's a free grant where doesn't cost us anything, just do it? Or how would you like to move forward with grants for future?
Well, I just think you use your best judgment on that. I thought you didn't take advantage of that for years, and all of a sudden we did. I'm not smart enough to know how to get those, what you do to get those, but.
So what I propose is for grants is anything that doesn't require money out of pocket that I'm good, if you're comfortable.
Yeah, you don't want to be having like, oh, we'll take advantage of spending, then you're spending on money on something else.
Right.
You want to spend money.
But if it's something that requires a match or money out of our pocket, then I'll get a board approval if everybody.
Or if it's something you know that's gonna need replaced, fixed, whatever.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
That's what I was
A
gonna say.
list of what, I mean, not that we need to provide, not that they need to provide approval, but a list of, here's the grants we applied for, you know, for
Yeah,
some
oh,
monthly or
absolutely.
something that, just so
The
we,
reason I bring that up is the grant season has started.
Right.
And sometimes there's a deadline that may be before our next meeting. So that's why I said if it requires nothing out of pocket, if you're okay, I will just. apply
Chief, do
for
you
what I
know, like, do they come out with these grants and you just don't know what grants, or do you know what grants?
We
are
don't
coming
always
out?
know. So some of the grants that come out, we call grant season, it just started. Some of them have a 30-day window, some of them have a continuous window where it never ends.
Right,
There's just all different kinds. And sometimes we have to look to see what fits our needs or if we fit what they're giving money for.
yeah. The only other thing I would say, kind of tack on to Jim is if it also includes, because a lot of the things that you're seeing block included, is you're seeing, okay, yeah, we have an onboarding cost.
Correct.
And then we have an annual fee.
Right.
So that's where, they may, the grant may cover the first year or 2 years, then the third year, it's on us.
Yeah,
Those are the things that,
absolutely.
I would say that falls into
All grants that are for equipment, if there's a subscription service, it only covers the first year, none of them cover maintenance on the second.
so that would be one thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yep. And with that said, I have one thing to add. Lieutenant Conkle found the USDA has a community facilities loan, grant, or loan guarantees, which means if we're approved for the grants for a facility, which covers police stations, fire stations, other things, if we were to be approved for that, it would be the total cost of whatever it would be, we would only pay 25% of the total cost. It's something I would like to explore. We're looking for approval to explore that because it's probably going to be a collaborative between us, road superintendent, and Beth to discuss where this grant goes. It'll obviously have to come from you at some point to say what direction we're going to go.
So, wait, let me get that right. So it's a grant that covers up to how much?
There is no limit.
But then
Yeah,
what's
it-
on us?
Is it limit on for population? Was it?
It's, yeah,
Did we fall into the,
we fall on the population side, so
well, there was different segments.
Yeah.
Did we fall into the one that's?
we meet all criteria so far. So the initial, just to be able to apply for the grant, we meet all the criteria. But again, there's three options because they have what they call direct loan. They also have a complete grant and they also have a loan guarantee. So we would like to explore to see what we would qualify for.
So what's our?
If the end goal was to get the grant to cover it all, it would be 75% is what the grant covers. We'd be responsible for 25%.
Heck, yeah,
Just want to make sure.
yeah. Heck, yeah.
Doesn't hurt.
Again, it's not my money, so I'm not spending somebody else's money. So.
We know.
Great. That's all I have.
Yeah, okay. Just backing up real quick, for administrator. Keith, is our residents treating you well? Sorry, is everybody okay? Residents treating you well?
Mary.
Who doesn't?
I told me to say it.
These are words.
Sure, the other sitting next to us.
We're very grateful. So.
Oh, I meant to ask, the zoning manual, is that about ready to go to Jen?
Yeah, it's ready. I've got to call Jen.
Okay, I just gave her a heads up
Yeah.
that you
I
Bill
haven't
would
had
be
a
getting a
chance to
call.
talk.
Okay. All right, so, no updates on the 161 quarter study. I put this Lexipol wellness solution under my agenda because it's something that would cover all staff, including retirees, part-timers, full-timers. This is, Sergeant Miller actually did all the research on this. Basically, the three top benefits is number one, if someone needs some kind of counseling or services of this, that, and the other. Right now, for example, I would have to call our gal over at EAP, give her my name, say, here's my problem, blah, 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 which, so I think that's a deterrent for some people. This would allow folks, it kind of combines our EAP, our wellness, and then there's other benefits so far as health and wellness and this stuff. It's all kind of incorporated into this one solution, and that means taking our current wellness, our current AEP or EAP, and putting this in here. But number one, it's anonymous. There's no names being given. One of the big thing that the other thing is instead of an employee having to go call this number for this, that number for that, everything is right in this one solution. One of the things that I really, really liked is that there is a crisis piece to this. So if somebody is finding themselves in crisis, and again, whether it's an employee, a family member, a retiree, their family member, it's pushing one button. It's taking this companies gives us a lot of resources. It takes resources we already have, like our chaplain services. Chief is in the process of putting together peer support. In case of a crisis, you push a button, it would shoot out 15 different numbers. Whoever answers their call first is right there instead of having someone wait. And then the folks would have a choice. Do I want to talk to somebody I know, or do I just I don't want anybody to know about this. I just need someone to talk to. So this is I'm proposing this is $3,999 a year. Again, that includes all of our staff, all of our family, police, and so support. This is strictly the first reading. So the gentleman that came in and spoke to all of us about this, I'm happy to bring him into the next meeting if you would like to have a chance to hear it a lot more in depth.
Maybe you can zoom in.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think in part it's gonna encourage people to use some of the services we already have more so because you're not trying to search for numbers, jumping through hoops to get to where we want to.
Beth, the only comment I'm gonna have is if we could not, like, I personally, I'd like to talk to that person, but it not be the first reading. Just that he needs more, exploring on it. I'd like to, listen to it. And then the other thing I'd like to do is, because it was my impression when we went through, when Fern and Flowers came in, that it wasn't, somebody needed, mental health, that it was you call. And it wasn't there was a number that you could call, but it would connect you directly to, like if you were in crisis. So I guess I'd have to understand, like, what's the difference between our healthcare now versus this? So, just understand that.
I can answer the piece of that. One of the differences is this is an app-based. Our current EAP, you have to call a phone number and you have to give some information and so forth. This is an app-based. If you have someone in crisis immediately, they can hit the app, they push a button, and like Beth, if we have it set up, you can have it set up, I should say, that it will call 15 different phone numbers, and that will be based on who we put in, which could be some of our peer support, it could be retirees, our chaplains, anything that's local resource. And then if it is, again, somebody in immediate crisis, that those 15 phones ring and the first person to answer becomes the person on the phone with the person in crisis. That makes sense. It's a lot of, and again, they'll need to explain more to you so you can understand, but it is a lot of resources and app-based, and it's anonymous. Okay. We can see on our end, we can look and see, okay, how many people have used the service, but it won't give us any personal details. They just say out of 30 employees, you've had 10 use it this month.
Yeah, I think I'd like to know a little bit about it.
Okay.
I
I'll have
used
them-
the
I'll
app
have them
at my
submit.
previous job and I have it on my phone. I'd like to see it and it was very successful because people could access it 2 o'clock in the morning when they're
Yes.
really struggling and they're not sure who to reach out to. Security of having the same login, like I have the same login as Chief does. Nobody knows, and so I don't have to worry about getting in trouble because I'm struggling right now. So I'd be happy to share that with you. My app's a little bit different than this. Just because you design it for your department or
Yes.
agency you're providing it to.
Yeah, it's a well-being, overall well-being, and thank you for sharing that. And again, the biggest fear is, and I will say this, over the years prior to this board and prior to me being in my position, we have failed many of our folks over the years, and I don't tend to let that happen.
Would this something that would come out of the police budget?
This is, well, it would be available to all employees, so that would be shared among, so based on number of employees in each department.
Does it replace then the costs associated with the EAP and that?
No,
stuff?
No,
that
it
it
incorporates the
incorporates
EAP.
that
Oh,
plus
it
incorporates.
Do you guys have this available for everybody? Is it just for police and fire?
I came from Delaware County, so the commissioners paid for all fire and EMS personnel, their spouses, their retirees. So it was expensive for over 800 people plus their partners.
So can you pick and choose who you want to cover on this? Did you make this for it so it's
We,
just for police?
one of the things, probably my biggest concern is people in law enforcement, they see a lot of not so pleasant stuff.
Right.
So, so yes, we could say that it's strictly for our law enforcement folks. That's,
And if there's even a cost differential with that, I mean, we're a smaller organization.
Yeah,
so
there is a difference then.
Yeah, based on your sworn officers and your non-sworn officers, right?
Say it again, sorry.
Sworn employees and
Yeah.
non-sworn employees.
Yeah. well, it kind of depends too, Jen, because like it's based on number of folks. So this is up to 25 employees, we have, well, with the elected official, we have 32. So, but yeah, I would have no problem with that. I would just, if nothing else, love for our law enforcement to have this access to, after listening through it.
And you have all of our current officers and retirees on this. And yours
Well-
have to be retired.
Well, the cost is not the amount of retires, it's the cost of current employees.
Current
The
employees.
retirees is the benefit. So in other words, anybody in my immediate family would have access to this at no charge. The cost is based on your current employees, and then you can pass it to your kids, your grandkids, your stepkid, your neighbor, your cousin, sister, roommate, it doesn't matter. You just, it's up to you who you want to pass it to at that point. But the cost is up to us based on our current. So,
So then I guess the ask is, right, what's that difference if we did just do it for the police based on that number versus total? And I didn't see it in here. I could have missed it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's consider March sixth, the first reading.
Absolutely,
Let's-
sure.
Let's get some more information, have him zoom in and ask a question. And move the ball.
Okay, we had talked about the Portage project and a potential loan program. I created a spreadsheet, the numbers of the people that are in this particular project. And with our ARP funding available to cover a good portion of that. I talked to Julie over Brochus's office. She said because we're a limited home rule that we can use the ARP funds, but it's a matter of how that gets structured. So I guess my first ask would be able to work with her a couple hours to determine what that structure would be like to fit that ARP funding. And then move forward from there. So if that sounds reasonable, if it's all working out the way I'll need it to work out, then just move forward with the attorney to create a program.
So can you break down these numbers that are on here, like the ones in red versus the ones, black, have the.
Sure. The reason, okay, so I contacted the Franklin County Sanitary Office and they came back. I wanted to know what the actual fees are gonna be to each resident. So the ones in red were I'm using worst case scenario because he was not able to get those numbers back to me in time for this meeting. Everything in black are the actual numbers that a resident will be charged for the frontage fees, and then it's all consistent down the line, $3,348 for tap-in fees,
So, and these are
and that's
all,
for sewer.
these are all of the parcel members or all of the people that are currently with the.
In the Portage
Okay.
project that township residents.
Okay.
One,
Yeah.
Right.
And so.
But they would have the option, they would either have the option to go into the city or stay in the township.
Right.
And then, so the exposure is both frontage fees and tap-in fee.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, this came from sanitary engineer.
Apparently there was some miscommunication on my part with them. When I talk about the red numbers, they have to actually take the address, go to the city of Columbus, get the measurements, and then come up with them. They can't tell. So I just asked Beth to take the worst case scenario.
So if they just remind me, if they go to Columbus, they have Columbus's thing is they get how many years to pay it back?
They have,
10?
I think it was 10 years,
Yeah.
yeah.
Would our exposure on this be all at once?
Yeah.
Because not everybody's gonna, I don't know. Actually, I don't want to say that because it's gonna depend on who's applying for the program.
The North Fork addresses.
But
They're unique.
they're all at some point going to be forced to pay.
Right.
Yes.
And is there a time frame that they're gonna be required to tap in?
When I talked to county, they said that if their timeline was probably gonna be a year, from the time of availability ends. I think so.
So in answer to your question, did you have a couple hours with the attorneys to work out the structure?
The structure.
I
of the
don't
loan.
think the board had a problem with a couple hours to get us a proposal. in front
Yeah,
of us
just
that-
to make sure everything's gonna line up with the home rule status as well as the using the other.
Yeah. Then we can take this information, that information.
And then go
together
to
and
the
take
stuff,
it.
yep.
Calendar. Calendar.
Calendar, yes, just want to let as a reminder, this Civilian Advisory Council will be meeting on the 28th at 6:30 at Township Hall. I'll be sending out their agenda for tomorrow. You know, copy them. So, let's see, so I've got that. I just want to let everybody know, the 3 parcels that Township offices that were combined into one. That's all, we were trying to make sure that everything was transferred over to tax exempt, and that's done at the confirmation back. Mount Carmel is very busy working out in our field. Their folks have been fantastic, giving us updates and so forth. Starting March 1st, they're gonna start putting up the real construction fence. So we're gonna start seeing bigger equipment in, cranes, cement trucks, all that other fun stuff. So, they've been very, very busy out there. Let's see, I think, unless y'all have any questions, I think that was it.
Line of communication facilities.
We can talk about that.
Oh,
Oh, I have one thing. And we looked into,
oh,
training on sunshine law and that thing.
Oh, actually, yes. Liberty Township had offered for staff. Several of us are signed up.
Okay.
I will, I thought I shared that with all of you guys a month or so ago, but Liberty Township has invited our staff to join their public records and their ethics training over there. So essentially, I'll be part of that.
This one.
In your Dropbox folder is the 2023 permanent appropriations, request a motion to approve. As submitted.
I'll make that motion.
Second, vote.
Yes.
Yes.
So the state audit for the 2022, 2021, there have been multiple conversations about whether we were going to do it full or abbreviated. Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I think we have, Mike, are you here for that?
Yes.
Oh,
We have-
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I just, it's on.
So,
But
so my name's Mike Burns. I'm with Bear. Gentlemen, you remember me, I think we met about a year ago, talked about some financing options for the city project. Kept in touch with Beth over the past year and I had numerous conversations with her the past year. She reached out to me this week, I think it was, maybe a week before, and asked some questions about audits and what my thoughts are in terms of should you do agreed upon procedures like you have been doing? Should you try to get a regular audit like you did back in 15 and 16? Or, what's my thoughts on that? And I think that's why you wanted me to write. Part of the
That's why I think
conversation.
you want it.
Yeah, I just want to, kind of go over the difference
Yes, so
preferences.
it comes down to, are you planning to do any financing here in the future? And Chief, I know you mentioned the USDA Community Facilities Loan Program. I know that program well. And part of my job to you guys, if you choose to work with me or continue to work with me, is when we figure out what the project is, whatever the project ends up being. My job is to help kind of explore what's your best financing option. That includes the USDA Community Facilities Loan Program, it includes bank placements, includes doing public offering like I did at Genoa Township. They did their police station. And that's as a reminder how I got introduced to you guys. So when the time comes, you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer them. Typically, USA Community Facilities Loan Programs more used for more rural type communities, lower wealth communities, that their township would be. Grant money is different. You get grant money, that's all day, every day.
Yes.
But, in terms of USDA loan program, a better option. to help you. My service is to help you explore that stuff. I get paid only if we close. Okay. I don't want to get off subject, but I did want to bring that up. Getting back to the subject of, do you get it audited? Do you agree upon procedures? That's really your call. I'm not going to sit here and dictate which way to go. But I can tell you what I know. And I do these very, very often. It comes down to if you're going to do financing in the next year or two. Three. If you're going to do financing in the next couple of years, my suggestion is you should try to at least get a cash audit, a regular audit. That's what you did back in 2015, 2016.
That's the last time you did that.
Yes.
Well,
Since
so-
then, it's been,
Because of the way we do, the guidelines that we follow in terms of what kind of investment. We're allowed to do the AUP audits, which is less hard for us. And make sure that we're certified. I think, what was it, a couple of years ago, they found the issue is that we had not had a separate fund, set aside for candy. That
A lot
police
of
department gave out, yeah, separate line. So, those are the biggest issues that we've had, but that's why we've done AUP audits, because we've limited our investments out.
and I would say hats off to you, because if you're doing agreed upon procedures and you're not getting any findings, that's what you really do your job. The township's doing the job well, they're keeping strong records, et cetera, et cetera. You want to be able to do agreed upon procedures and get a long list of things you do, right? So it's not a bad thing you're doing agreed upon procedures, and it does save you a little bit of money. The challenge though is you have to go out and get financing of any size. If you did a direct placement, which again is when you place it with the bank directly, there's most banks aren't going to lend to municipality or to township. Because they just don't have that extra. They have the white birds. That's the kind of approach. So a lot of the banks aren't going to lend to you because they just don't have knowledge. Banks that are going to lend to you, you can get anything from the local bank to the regional bank, like Huntington, First Merit, whoever. And you can get national bank, like Chase, Truist, Capital. Those are the banks that typically lend to entities like yourself. I can tell you the large national banks are usually the most aggressive, meaning the lowest interest rate on your financing. And I can tell you banks like Truist, they won't even lend to you if you have a regular audit because it's cash basis. They want to see a GAAP financial statement. And if you don't have a GAAP financial statement, Truist won't even look at it. Most banks will look at your request if you have a regular audit. If you just have agreed upon procedures, I'm sure I can get it done. But I think we're going to be getting a bank to lend to you, maybe not as aggressive. So for additional, I think you said $1,000, $1,400 a year,
$1,400.
you just save a basis or two on a couple $1 million deal over the next 10 years, pay for the audit.
Yeah, it's not been about the cost. So,
Yeah,
it's
so it's
about-
a work probably, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and it streamlines it, obviously.
Yes.
Sure. So the net is really, if I may, I know we're holding a lot of other folks who, the net is that it's up to the board to decide. If we believe that they want to do some sort of financing in the short term, given back and forth about facilities, then it makes sense to move forward the full audit. Do that. I can rescind what I've already submitted. Because I had already acknowledged, I had to acknowledge and go with the AUP. I did that months before we ever had this conversation. So it's really, the net is the board needs to decide and we'll follow.
That's not an issue. It's about $1,400 for abbreviated versus a full.
An AUP audit.
AUP, okay. Do we have, here's my question, is at any time we have to ultimately do a full audit at some point, right?
We do it next year.
Is that, we can go one more
Yeah.
AUP audit, one more year, and then we have to do a
This
full anyway?
last, and-
Okay. Okay,
And I'm
not to interrupt, but I thought you were copied on that. We got an email from the CPA that's gonna be doing our audit, asking if there was interest in doing full audit or still. So that was part of the reason I had
that one.
that just came in. When
So
did
if
that
we get
come
a
in
full audit
last
this year,
week?
do we have
Last
to do
week?
what? Will that take,
It-
are we gonna have?
I
to
mean,
do
I guess it
full
would
audits back to
depend on
back?
what the banks require.
I think, you know, again, if you're
Because we
thinking,
really haven't.
Who's
explored
required to
long
full
term.
audit next
The state.
The state.
year? So if we do a full audit this year, we still do a full audit next
No,
It has to be
Why
so
would-
many every so many.
Why wouldn't we just do the whole audit?
It's not
I
like
think
we do it
the-
this year. It's-
yeah.
I mean, it's just
Does
that
that
we
create-
have not made this, had this conversation.
Right.
Are you staff wise? Are we good with a full audit? I mean, in the sense of staffing. at
Mary
nine
is
and
highly organized.
highly organized.
I remember my first few audits and it was a nightmare. That's all we did all day long with hard papers back and forth. Now everything sits down, the auditor goes in, do their job. And
I
they
hate to
say
say,
two
it,
thumbs
when,
up.
when I first was elected, payroll was done on yellow ledger sheets.
Well, it's gonna
So
be-
it's been a long
it's gonna
time.
be- It's gonna be
She's much
burdensome
better
to
than that.
do it no matter what you do.
It
Right.
is.
So
And
It
so I almost think, you know, rip the Band-Aid off now, and if we can take advantage of that for financing and stuff like that, it's a no-brainer. And I think that.
I'll second.
Oh,
Yes.
yes. There is a caveat.
I want to see what Mark.
I will see you in a moment. Right.
You're in trouble.
Okay,
Okay, so, I'll need to rescind what I submit or just revise and I'll reach out to you tomorrow, to talk about that. Okay, request a motion for approval of payroll and disbursements.
Make that motion.
second, oh,
Yes.
yes. Anything, other good business before, being none, for motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Oh, yeah, yes.
I'm trying to find that email for you, Michelle.
I mean, I would go probably
Sorry,
on
I'm
there
late.
where they put 2 T's or 1 L or, you know, I know.
Yeah.
I may have missed it. Could be.
Keep it